Welcome to the WSU Community Standards Process Training. The goal of today's training is to provide you information about students' rights and responsibilities in the community standards process, but also the steps of that process. The intended audience of today's training is students. So throughout the training, when we reference you, we are actually referencing the student. This is the exact same information the student will receive during their informational sessions we will discuss a little more today. First thing we want to do today is identify the goals for the Center for Community Standards. The primary goal for the Center for Community Standards is education first. It's the office's #1 goal. Education centered on student learning through personal development and accountability. Anytime a student is involved in the community standards process, our goal as conduct officers or board members and advisors should be to educate the student. In addition, our goal in the center is to support students throughout the community standards process. One of the goals of those standards is to protect students' rights so they have the opportunity to succeed, but also uphold the students' responsibilities in the process. The goal of this informational session meeting is to make sure that students know their rights and the steps in the process, but also the overall goals of the Community Standards Office. What the community standards are the values and rules we abide by to make WSU the best place for the WSU community. We uphold and allow students to be accountable to high standards of conduct that foster a safe, healthy, and inclusive campus community. The community standards process, therefore, is designed to guide and correct behaviors, challenge students to make better choices, and protect the rights and safety of all students, the university, and the community at large.
The Center for Community Standards receives reports and information from a variety of sources. The vast majority of our reports come from the Department of Residence Life here on campus, law enforcement, including WSU Police and Pullman Police, faculty and staff, and community members. Once the Center for Community Standards receives information, we will evaluate if a potential violation exists, and if we believe that it's possible that our community expectations were not being met, we will initiate the community standards process.
We want to provide a roadmap of what to expect from today. There are 4 steps in the general community standards process, but there also is a very different academic integrity process. The 4 steps to the community standards process are, first, to identify students' rights and responsibilities in the process, primarily through conduct advisors and informational sessions. The second step is to provide students with notifications of meetings and hearings. The third step after a hearing is decision making. The fourth step, if the student decides to disagree with the conduct officer or conduct board's decision, they can appeal to the University Appeals Board. Again, there is an entirely separate process for academic integrity, which we will discuss in more detail at the end of this presentation. You have many rights in the community standards process. The first is you have the right to share your experience. The second is you have a right to available resources. And finally, you have a right to a fair and equitable process. They are identified in more detail in the next slides. If you are involved in the community standards process, you have the right to share your experience. It is really important that you understand that you are assumed not responsible for any reported incident unless the conduct officer or conduct board determines that you were more likely than not responsible for violating those community standards. You also get to choose what information you want to share and how you want to be involved in the process. You do not have to share any information that may incriminate you. You will not be viewed negatively if you choose not to share specific information. At any point throughout the community standards process, even before you meet with your conduct officer or the conduct board, you can request to review your file that includes details and information relating to the incident. To request a review of your file, please contact the Center for Community Standards. You can provide documentation. Sharing your information ensures that your experience is part of the conversation and is added to your file. You can provide a written statement, submit additional documentation such as text messages, emails, phone logs, etc., provide the conduct officer or conduct board with witnesses, or ask your witnesses to contact your conduct officer directly. You also have the right to many available resources. The first is these informational sessions. The informational sessions are intended to clarify the community standards process from your perspective and answer any questions you may have. These sessions help you understand your rights and responsibilities and what you can expect moving forward. You also have the right to train conduct advisors. An advisor can help you through the process, explain the community standards process, and come to any meeting or hearing that you have within the community standards process. You also may request a language interpreter at no cost at any time. To do so, please contact the Center for Community Standards. You can also request disability or medically related accommodations. If you believe you would benefit from accommodations in the Community Standards process, please let your conduct officer or the Center for Community Standards know. Finally, you have all the resources available to you as a WSU student, including counseling and psychological services and Cougar Health Services. Those resources may be confidential. This slide identifies a little more detail about conduct advisors and how they can help support you through the process. Going through the community standards process can be overwhelming and at times confusing. A conduct advisor can help make the process easier, serving as a coach, mentor, sounding board every step of the way. A conduct advisor is different from your academic advisor. If you would like a conduct advisor, there are two options for you to choose from. You may choose a conduct officer that is from a trained group of WSU faculty or staff members. These advisors are volunteers serving to benefit you as a student involved in the process. Those advisors are not employees of the Center for Community Standards. The trained conduct advisors are volunteers that are intended to serve in an unbiased role. These volunteer advisors are specifically trained to serve students within the process. You can find a list of these advisors along with their profiles and contact information at handbook.wsu.edu. You can also choose an advisor of your choice that is not involved in the reported incident. This could be a friend, a parent, a faculty or staff member, so long as they're not a witness to the reported incident. You may reach out to conduct advisors directly at any time. Your advisor can contact the Center for Community Standards to get information about meeting dates, your status in the process, and any assigned sanctions. They can also attend meetings and your hearing with you in a supportive role. It is important to know that your advisor cannot represent you or speak on your behalf, and they do not serve as your attorney or legal counsel. Finally, you have a right to a fair and equitable process. First, you have the right to understand where the community standards apply. This is commonly known as jurisdiction. Community standards apply to individuals from the time of application to WSU until awarding of a WSU degree. The community standards also apply to all behavior that occurs on university premises, during university-sponsored activities, online behavior, and off-campus behavior when it negatively affects the university community. You also have the right to confidentiality. Conduct meetings and hearings are closed to public observation. If you have a concern for your personal safety, well-being, or fears of confrontation, accommodations for participation can be made, including participation telephonically or via video conference. If your incident is heard before the conduct board, which we will describe a little later in the presentation, you can obtain legal representation at your own expense. Representatives may include those admitted to practice law and licensed legal interns. As we will describe later in this presentation, if you believe that your conduct officer or conduct board member may have a conflict of interest, you may request to have them removed from your conduct review. This is commonly known as recusal. If you don't like a conduct officer or conduct board's decision, you can submit an appeal. If you believe that hearing was conducted unfairly, if you think the information was insufficient for the outcome, if you think the assigned sanction was inappropriate, or if new and sufficient information becomes available that you think would change the decision. As part of the fair and equitable process, you have the right to review your conduct file and record. WSU is not permitted to share your information without your written consent, except in limited circumstances. Those include when a student is under the age of 21 and violates the alcohol or drug standards. In those instances, those students' parents will be notified. Your conduct file may be released as required by law. The community standards process is unique from the legal system, and WSU generally does not share information with law enforcement unless required to do so. Finally, you may request to remove a single alcohol, drug, or marijuana incident from your conduct record if you do not have another violation for a 2-year time period. You also have many responsibilities in the process that correspond to your rights. You have the responsibility to attend this informational meeting. You also have the responsibility to attend whatever hearing comes next, whether it's the conduct officer hearing or the conduct board hearing. We will talk more about notifications of those hearings in the next step. If you choose to speak at any hearing or to a conduct officer or board member, you have the responsibility to tell the truth. While you are presumed not responsible, if you are found responsible, you may be assigned sanctions. You have the responsibility to complete those sanctions by the assigned deadline. You also have the responsibility to communicate with your conduct officer. Sometimes you may need to reschedule a hearing or a meeting, or you made an extension on a sanction. It is your responsibility to communicate that with your assigned conduct officer. You also have the responsibility to review communications sent to your @wsu.edu email address. All communications sent in the community standards process will be sent to your @wsu.edu email. Because the community standards process is confidential, any communications sent to your @wsu.edu email address will include a private confidential link. You will have to click on that link in order to access any of those communications. If you have questions about the validity of emails you receive from community standards, please contact our office. The second step in the community standards process is when you receive notifications of meetings and hearings with the conduct officer or the conduct board. There are two types of hearings: conduct officer hearings and conduct board hearings. Conduct officers are one-on-one hearings with a Center for Community Standards staff member or a residential education director. Conduct board hearings are more formal hearings that are before a panel of faculty, staff, and students. A majority of any conduct board has to be students. Conduct boards are used for the most egregious matters, those where students are facing suspension, expulsion, revocation of degree, or loss of recognition for student organizations. Conduct officer hearings are used for matters where possible sanctions are not suspensions or expulsions. The vast majority of the work in the Center for Community Standards involves conduct officer hearings, not conduct board hearings. Conduct officer hearings generally last no more than an hour. It is important to note that you can bring an advisor with you to this conduct officer hearing. It is also important that there is no suspension or expulsion possible in a conduct officer hearing. If you want additional information about what sanctions may be available to the conduct officer if you are found responsible, you can visit handbook.wsu.edu. At the outset of any conduct officer hearing, your conduct officer will clarify your rights in the process and your responsibilities. Then the conduct officer will ask you to explain the situation from your perspective. If you don't attend a conduct officer hearing, a decision may be made without you being able to explain your experience. In order to engage a conduct officer hearing, a conduct officer will send you a notice letter. That notice letter will be sent to your @wsu.edu email address. In the notice letter, the conduct officer will identify the date, time, and location of your conduct officer hearing. The conduct officer will also note in the letter a summary of the information and the allegations. In the letter, you will be assigned a specific conduct officer. The letter will inform you how to request a removal of your conduct officer if you think there is good cause. The conduct officer notice letter will also identify if off-campus jurisdiction is being used by the university and provide you information on how to challenge off-campus jurisdiction. To prepare for your conduct officer hearing, you'll want to do three things. First, you will want to gather your information. Sharing your information ensures that your experience is part of the conversation and is added to your conduct file. You can provide a written statement, submit additional documentation, such as text messages, emails, phone logs, videos, etc., provide witnesses for the conduct officer to interview, and/or ask witnesses to contact your conduct officer directly. You can submit any information to your conduct officer. The second thing that you'll want to do is review your conduct file. You can schedule an appointment to review your file by contacting the Center for Community Standards. Finally, if your conduct officer hearing is scheduled when you have a conflict, you will want to reschedule. You can discuss changing your date and time with your conduct officer, preferably 24 hours before your hearing. The second type of hearings are conduct board hearings. Conduct board hearings occur when your outcome or sanction could potentially involve suspension of greater than 10 instructional days, expulsion or revocation of degree, and matters in which a registered student organization faces loss of recognition. In addition, conduct board hearings are used for allegations of sexual misconduct or by choice of your conduct officer. Your conduct board will consist of a minimum of 5 members, a majority being your WSU student peers, who will make decisions regarding the reported incident. A presiding officer is a licensed attorney with judicial training who ensures you receive a fair and impartial process and that the board is following all legal requirements. The presiding officer is not a member of your conduct board and does not participate in discussions on the outcome of your incident. Before your hearing, you will be provided with the names of your board members. You can learn more about your board members by visiting handbook.wsu.edu. You may request to have a board member removed from your hearing with good cause. In order to find you responsible, a majority, more than half, of the conduct board members must agree on your responsibility and any sanctions that are assigned to you. You will be notified of the conduct board decision via email within 10 calendar days of your conduct board hearing. Conduct board hearings last anywhere between 2 or 3 hours. Because conduct board hearings are formal, you have the right to legal representation at your own expense in conduct board hearings. If you disagree with the outcome or the sanctions of the conduct board, you can appeal the board's decision to the University Appeals Board. To prepare for your conduct board hearing, you'll want to do a couple things. The first is you'll want to gather your information. Sharing your information ensures that your experience is part of the conversation and added to your conduct file. Again, you can provide a written statement, additional documentation, witnesses, or ask your witnesses to contact your conduct officer. You'll want to review your file before the conduct board hearing. You can schedule an appointment to review your file by contacting the Center for Community Standards. Again, you can request that a conduct board member be removed with good cause. More information about removal of board members will be identified in the Notice of Conduct Board hearing. In addition, if the matter occurred off-campus, you can challenge off-campus jurisdiction. More information on how to do that will be in your conduct board hearing notice. Finally, you'll want to connect with resources, including your advisor and legal representation if you have selected an attorney to represent you.
Step 3 in the community standards process is decision making. This is where your conduct officer or conduct board will decide the outcome of your situation. When your conduct officer makes their decision, they make an initial assumption that you're not responsible for violating the expectations of our community. Then they'll evaluate all of the evidence available and determine if it's more likely than not that you violated our community standards. You will be notified of the decision at the end of your hearing or via email within 10 calendar days of your conduct officer hearing. If you're found responsible, education or disciplinary sanctions will be assigned. Conduct officers cannot assign sanctions that suspend or expel students, revoke degrees, or revoke university recognition from a group. Only the conduct board can make those decisions. Educational sanctions are designed to assist you in your personal development and success as a WSU student and challenge you to make positive choices in the future. Your conduct officer can make a number of decisions regarding the outcome of your situation. They can find you not responsible for the alleged violation, and the case will be closed. No further action will be needed on your part. The incident report can be dismissed. You have not been found not responsible, but the investigation can continue and the case can be reopened at a later point. The conduct board can decide that more investigation is necessary before a decision is made. The conduct officer can also report the incident to the conduct board for further review. They also have the option of finding you responsible and assigning educational sanctions. Educational sanctions assist your personal development and success as a WSU student and challenge you to make positive choices in the future. Sanctions or educational assignments will be assigned depending on the specifics of your situation and your past interactions with our center. Sanctions assigned by a conduct officer can include substance education classes, educational projects, and community service. Situations that could result in suspension or expulsion of a student or loss of recognition for an organization are referred to a conduct board. Step 4 in the community standards process is the appeals process. If you choose, you have the right to appeal the decision of your conduct officer or your conduct board. Whether you have completed a conduct officer hearing or a conduct board hearing, you have the option to appeal the decision. The appeals board is in place to consider your appeal after you have been through a university conduct board or conduct officer hearing and you would like a review of the determined outcomes and any sanctions imposed. You may choose to submit an appeal within 21 calendar days of receiving the notice of the decision. You will be asked to provide reasoning for your request. The appeals board will review all of the content in your file as well as any materials that you submitted. The appeals board can uphold the initial decision, reverse it, modify it, or send it back to the conduct officer or conduct board for additional review. The appeals board must respond to your conduct officer hearing appeal within 20 calendar days or within 30 days if it was a conduct board hearing. Your appeals board will consist of 3 members, with the majority of members being your WSU student peers. 1 member will be appointed as the chair who takes on responsibility for ensuring you receive a fair and impartial process and is also a voting member. Your appeals board members have been through a selection process and trained on topics such as due process, burden of proof, cultural competency, and implicit bias. Prior to your appeals board review, your board member names will be provided for you. You can learn more about them at handbook.wsu.edu. You can also request to have a board member removed from your hearing with good cause. You have the option to request the appeals board reconsider their decision. You must submit this request within 10 calendar days from receiving your appeals board decision. You may request to delay the effective date of your sanctions. You must submit your request within 10 calendar days from receiving your appeals board decision. As we noted at the beginning of this presentation, academic integrity violations have a slightly different process within our community standards process. We are going to discuss that process now. During the academic integrity process, your instructor will initiate the conversation. If your instructor has reason to believe that you violated the academic policies for their course, they will contact you and ask to schedule a meeting where you can discuss the allegation. Generally, the Center for Community Standards is not involved at this stage. You have access to the same rights and resources in the academic integrity process as you do in the general community standards process. So things like conduct advisors, informational sessions, and language interpreters are all available to you. Your instructor will determine your responsibility and the academic sanction according to course policies. To determine you are responsible, the instructor must decide that you, more likely than not, violated academic integrity policies. The instructor will send you and the Center for Community Standards a notice of their decision, including the information that they used in their decision-making process. If you agree with your instructor that you violated the course policies and accept the academic sanction, the Center for Community Standards will contact you to discuss additional educational outcomes, which could include academic integrity seminar, online tutorials, or research and reflection papers. If you do not agree with your instructor's decision, you can appeal their decision through the Academic Integrity Hearing Board. If you do not agree with your instructor's decision or your academic sanction, you have 21 calendar days from the date of the decision notice to submit an appeal and request a review by the Academic Integrity Hearing Board. During your appeal period, or while your appeal is pending, you should remain in class and complete the requirements as assigned. The Center for Community Standards will request that the Academic Integrity Appeals Board conduct a separate, independent assessment of your responsibility of the reported violation and the outcomes assigned by your instructor. The board can uphold or reverse the decision to find you responsible and uphold, reverse, or modify the academic consequence your instructor assigned. The Academic Integrity Hearing Board is made up of faculty and student peers. You will receive notice by WSU email of your scheduled hearing with at least 7 days' notice. Your instructor has the opportunity to participate in the hearing and share their information directly with the board. If you need to reschedule your hearing, inform the chair of the Academic Integrity Appeals Board. Their contact information will be provided in your hearing date notice, or you can contact the Center for Community Standards. You'll be asked to provide a good reason for this request. Your instructor and the dean or department chair will be notified of the decision of the Academic Integrity Hearing Board. From the date of your hearing, you will be notified within 20 calendar days of the decision. The decision is final at that time. There are no further appeal processes. If the Academic Integrity Hearing Board upholds the instructor's decision, the Center for Community Standards will reach out to you as the student to determine appropriate educational outcomes. In the event that this is your first academic integrity violation, the most common outcomes include an academic integrity seminar, an online tutorial, or a research and reflection paper. If this is your second academic integrity violation, the likely outcome includes referral to the conduct board with the recommendation of expulsion from WSU. If the Academic Integrity Hearing Board sides with you, then the board has the authority to provide an appropriate outcome or direct the instructor assign you the grade as if you did not have an academic integrity violation in the course.
Thank you for listening throughout today's training. If you have any questions about the community standards process or specific incidents, please contact the Center for Community Standards.